Hello, everyone. Welcome to the MeanGene Show here on KDWN 720 AM, 101.5 FM in Las Vegas, getting you ready for your weekend. I am joined by, as always, my co-host. He is with Bally Sports Southeast. He covers the Carolina Panthers and the Charlotte Hornets. Please welcome Dustin Phifer. Hey, Dustin.
Hey, Gene. How you doing today?
Doing great, man. Trying to stay warm in a cold, wintry weekend here in my state.
Yeah, it's this weather sweeping across the country. So hope everybody's staying safe and gonna have a good weekend.
Yeah, same here, man. And speaking of weekend, I tell you what, we have a lot of stuff to talk about, folks. It's Super Bowl 56 is set. Got the Bengals and the Rams. That would take place Sunday, February 13th. At SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. We will be breaking down the big game next week on our Super Bowl show. But today, we have a ton of stuff to talk about. We're going to recap last week's championship game, and we're also going to talk about the Brian Flores situation. And Dustin, that was something we were already planning to discuss that. And all of a sudden, then this story broke. We were going to talk about the lack of qualified African-American coaching hiring. We talked about that last week, and then all of a sudden, this big story broke.
Yeah, as soon as I saw that come out, I knew that's something that we had lined up to talk about. So I had to text you immediately because that definitely was a bombshell that dropped this weekend. And it's definitely got the conversation stirred up even more, so there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, we're going to jump into that. And then in the second half of the show, we're going to look at the remaining NFL coaching vacancies, including the most recent hirings. And we're going to close the show with the 2022 NFL Pro Bowl, which is going to take place right there in Las Vegas. And looking forward to that. Yours truly, I will be there at Allegiant Stadium to watch, Dustin, my first ever Pro Bowl.
First ever Pro Bowl, can put it on the list, just add to your list of accomplishments and accolades that you've done, and it's only going to keep going. We're going to find more stuff that you haven't been to make sure you're out there covering it all for us.
Man, we're going to talk about that. That should be fun. But anyway, folks, the MeanGene Show is brought to you by Presidential Limousine by Captain. It's the official limousine service of the MeanGene Show. There's absolutely no way you can experience Las Vegas until you ride in the Presidential Limousine by Captain. So if you come to Las Vegas, make your reservations now by calling 702-438-5466, or you can text them 702-410-6057. And the show is also brought to you by the Westgate Las Vegas Resort Casino. Experience the award-winning soul of Motown, high-energy concert-style musical tribute celebrating Motown legends. This is a must-see show during your Las Vegas vacation getaway. For reservations, call 888-796-3564. So, Dustin, I tell you what, man, you got to figure, man, we've been doing this show for so many years. We've been doing these countdowns and predicting these games for so many years in the playoffs. We finally got it right last weekend on championship weekend.
That's the cherry on top for us of our picks. We had a pretty good postseason, but to get both of those games right, and especially the way that Cincinnati game, I was going to text you and be like, man, well, we completely off on this. But what a comeback in that second half. And, man, these two teams, this is going to be a toss-up Super Bowl, Gene, who can take this home.
Yeah, I tell you what, it is. And when you're looking at the game, right, and you see, hey, Kansas City just manhandling the Bengals in that first half, and I'm like, oh, my goodness. Is this going to be a game that I even want to watch in the second half? Because, and like they say, Dustin, this is why they play the game, man. How that team stuck with the plan, came out in the second half and erased that deficit and got the win. And Dustin, Kansas City did not look like the same team in the first half.
They did not. It was one of those games, like you said, where we've seen Kansas City in the past. When they're clicking, they're not going to get stopped. So every drive I was expecting Kansas City to score. But I'll tell you what, the biggest turning point, I think, Gene, was that last play of the first half. For Cincinnati to stop Kansas City, not give up any points, I think that kind of gave them some momentum going into the half. And you're right. I don't know what happened in the second half, but Cincinnati stuck with their game plan. They didn't go outside of the box. They continued to play good. They did a good job of spying Patrick Mahomes. And I hate to say this, Gene, but for a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, he looked confused in that second half, and he just did not know what to do with the ball, as they gave him all the time in the world to throw it, and he didn't know what to do with that, with having all that time to throw.
Yeah, and then let's flip back a couple of years ago. And you're talking about an inconsistency in playoffs. You remember when the Houston Texans made the playoffs that went to Kansas City? They jumped on the Kansas City Chiefs, 24 it looked like, I think it was 24-3 or something other. And then Kansas City, flipped the script and outscored the Texans and won the game. And it seemed like just the same thing happened to them, with the Bengals. But how does that happen, though? I mean, are we going to credit the Bengals for just making the adjustments, or the Chiefs for just falling apart?
Yeah, and then if you add a third year, I believe a couple of years ago, and I believe I was in Vegas when this happened, Gene, where the Tennessee Titans got up big on the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Chiefs came back and won that game. So it's happened a few times to them, and you're right. I think you got to give a ton of credit to the Bengals because they stayed with their game plan. Once again, we talk about Joe Burrow. He never looked like the moment was too big, regardless of how much they got down. Their defensive ends, they were rushing like crazy in that first half, getting past Mahomes. In the second half, they made that adjustment to stay in front of him and give him that time to stay in the pocket. But also, as much credit as we got to give the Bengals, you cannot be supposed Super Bowl favorite, Gene, at home up 21-3 and lose that game. You just can't do it. And it's a team that's been to 4 straight AFC championship games. And as much as we want to talk about them possibly being a dynasty, here we are after 4 years of this, Gene, and they've only got 1 Super Bowl. So you don't want to say it's a disappointment because they've got a Super Bowl, but to have 4 straight AFC championship games at home and to only win 1 Super Bowl, there's a lot of questions that you have to ask yourself, whether it's Patrick Mahomes and the decisions he made or whether it's Andy Reid. We've seen it in the past with him sometimes in the playoffs. So as much as we got to give the Bengals credit, there's a lot of questions that you're going to be asking in the offseason about the Kansas City Chiefs.
You're absolutely right. I mean, because we could be comparing the Chiefs to the Buffalo Bills if it wasn't for the 1 Super Bowl win that they got. And
absolutely.
And then of course you got to look at the Super Bowls that they made, and losing to. Well, actually, I take that back now. So they actually get to the Super Bowl and we'll just go back to last year and just see how they fell apart last year.
Right.
And then they did beat the 49ers. But, man, that was on just a lucky play there because the 49ers should have won that Super Bowl against the Chiefs as well. But anyway, amazing stuff. So congratulations to the Cincinnati Bengals. You are in the Super Bowl again, and you get to face the team that we're getting ready to talk about.
Gene, before we get to my Rams, I don't want to say it. I know we're going to pick picks, on another show. But and I've been a Rams guy this whole time. But I'm telling you right now, the Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow have me seriously thinking about which way I want to go in the Super Bowl. And as much as everybody who listens to this show probably thinks Dustin's going to ride the Rams like he has all year, I'm on the fence about who to pick in that game. So it'll be interesting to see as we get closer to Super Bowl Sunday.
Well, as you know, the NFL is feeding us tons of information and stuff. So hey, look, no matter what they give us, we have seen enough football, and especially this year, and we've seen enough Joe Burrow to really be careful before we make our picks. That's why it's not happening on this show, and it's probably not going to happen to the last minute of next week's show, before we make our Super Bowl predictions. But let's talk about the Rams. The 4 seed there in the NFC, they beat the 49ers 20-17. And, man, you're talking about a nail biter. This game could have went either way. Either way. There was a sea of red from the 49ers fans who came from NoCal down to SoCal to watch this game. And the Rams squeaked in, though, Dustin.
Yeah, I think I read before that game started that it was going to be almost 60% 49ers fans, and it showed in that crowd. You could see the red throughout there. And it was a very loud atmosphere. And what a game. And, Gene, I'll tell you what, you're right. That game could have went either way. And I was sitting there in the third quarter when the Rams were down 17-7. And I was saying to myself, and I was going to text you, why can't the Rams beat this team? Because it just looked like, once again, the 49ers had their number. They were doing everything right, playing good defense, making timely plays. Deebo Samuel with a screen touchdown. And I just thought it was going to be another one of these games where the Rams couldn't overcome it. But I tell you what, when they got down 17-7, Matt Stafford, Cooper Kupp, they got up and made some plays that they needed to make and got right back in this game. And I'll tell you, one of the big turning points, too, was when you saw Aaron Donald on the sideline talking to that defense. And, a lot of guys do this year. A lot of guys pull people together and they talk, and it's just words. But when Aaron Donald talks, he backs it up. And he went out there, and that defense for the Rams was a different defense for the rest of that game. And as much as Stafford and Kupp and OBJ and those guys made plays to get back in it, it was the defense that really stood up and stopped the 49ers from scoring the rest of that game that helped them win that.
Yeah, and we've talked about the Rams. You certainly have. You picked this team to get to the Super Bowl, and this was without the additions that they picked up here in the season as the season progressed. But once they got Von Miller and they picked up Odell Beckham Jr. and Weddle comes back, man, I tell you, this was a team that was just hard to root against. And then when you look at the leadership of Aaron Donald, yeah, that pretty much got them over the edge because you could just feel it, Dustin. There was no way. I don't know how it was going to end, but there was just no way the Rams were going to lose that game at home.
No. Once they got that lead and that defense went back out there, you could see that they were ready to go. They were primed for the moment. And we talked about Eric Weddle, Gene, a guy who came in out of retirement just for the playoffs. People probably think that he wasn't going to have huge of an impact, but you said it. You thought he would, and he led the team in tackles in the NFC Championship game. So what a moment that was. Aaron Donald, Von Miller, those guys are closers on the D-line. And I know the defense was probably taking it away, but I got a lot of questions for the 49ers for that whole last fourth quarter. They didn't get Debo or George Kittle the ball enough late in that game. And
no,
obviously
they didn't.
Jimmy G was running for his life. But you got to find a way, if it's handing off to Debo or something, you got to find a way to get your playmakers the ball.
You really do.
And they didn't do that, and that cost them the game in the end.
And it showed too when at the end of the game when Debo Samuel went over to the sidelines and was in tears and big props to Odell Beckham for going over there and consoling him. I just thought that was very classy. But Debo Samuel has just carried that team on his shoulders and you could see the emotion right there on the sidelines. But man, you're right, Dustin. They should have really gave him the ball. Hey, you just got to go with the man that has gotten you there, right?
That's right. And I want to give a big shout out. You just did it, but I do want to give a shout out to Odell Beckham Jr. because, Gene, a lot of talk goes into guys and how they fit on teams and how they're portrayed and their legacies and things like that. And OBJ's been through it. He goes to the Browns. They say that they're basically better without him. And, he's not the same player. But what does he do? He comes to the Rams. He shows that he's still a number one guy, even though Kupp's the number one guy. He shows that he can work with another guy, that he can make plays. And then he shows the class after the game. This is his first Super Bowl. He could be celebrating like crazy, but he takes the time to go to the team, and that shows his character. So this is a guy who's got we talk about Stafford and his redemption story, but OBJ and his redemption story. The way he was cast off earlier this year by people and by the Browns. Congrats to him and how he's handled it. Now he's got a chance to go win a ring.
Absolutely right, Dustin. So like I said, Super Bowl 56 is set. SoFi Stadium, the Rams don't have to leave home at all. And just interesting. It's going to be a great one. We're going to talk about it next week. But moving along here, Dustin, we were planning to – and this would have been the week that we would kind of talk about some off the field news. And man, there's plenty of it to talk about. We were going to get into the coaching vacancies and sort of break this down and see who might go where and what candidates are out there. And we're still going to do that. But we're going to talk about one of the coaching firings that took place earlier in the year. Well, actually, it wasn't early in the year. Well, yeah, it was last month, right? So the first Monday after the end of the regular season. Brian Flores, former coach for the Miami Dolphins, Dustin, when it was announced that he was fired, shocked everyone. Some of the other firings we expected, but we did not expect Brian Flores to be fired from the Miami Dolphins. And then things sort of laid low a little bit, and we said, well, man, this guy's going to get a job like really quick. And so this didn't happen. He was interviewing, and this didn't happen. And then, Dustin, I will let you explain what happened this week with Brian Flores.
Yeah, so I texted you right when it first started coming out. I think I texted you before ESPN was even putting it out. I saw some stuff from some people, and Brian Flores has filed a lawsuit against the NFL. I'm sure people, everybody's heard about it now. It's one of the top stories in sports. But Brian Flores has filed a lawsuit against the NFL in regards to how they handle interviews for African-American coaches. He's also got some stuff in there about some interviews that he's went on in the past that he's considered sham interviews. He's even got some stuff in there in regards to tanking that is big. One of the allegations is that Dolphins owner Stephen Ross offered Flores $100,000 for each of the team's losses in 2019 so they can improve their draft position. And he says that he shut that down right away, and that's not the type of guy he is. He's there to win. His players are there to win. So a lot to dissect. It's hard to go through all of this, here on our show.
Right.
A lot of allegations out there. There was some text exchange between Bill Belichick about him getting the job for the Giants when he hasn't even interviewed yet, when it turns out that Bill Belichick texted the wrong person and was actually texting Brian Daboll to say congratulations. And so here Flores is, waiting to be interviewed, hoping to get the job, and they've already basically decided based off of Bill Belichick's text, they've already decided on Brian Daboll. So a lot goes in there, Gene. So you're the first person I texted because I wanted to get your reaction. So tell me what all you're thinking as far as this lawsuit goes.
Well, first of all, when I tell you, I was at the gym when you texted me, and I'm like, okay, well, my heart was already pumping after that workout, and then I got that. But, so class action lawsuit, which got my attention right away because this opens the door apparently for, other people to piggyback on this. And it looked like, Brian Flores is getting some support in a sense. But, man, these are some strong allegations. But, Dustin, my immediate reaction was, okay, what is the NFL going to say? And their response shocked me more than anything. And I guess it was just one of those textbook responses because, the NFL, they got lawyers and people that just, I'm sure there's a response for every situation that comes up. So this is their response to the Brian Flores lawsuit. The NFL and our clubs are deeply committed to ensuring equitable employment practices and continue to make progress in providing equitable opportunities throughout our organizations. Diversity is the core to everything we do, and there are a few issues on which our clubs and our internal leadership team spend more time. We will defend against these claims, which are without merit. I guess that last part there just really shocked me. So I'm like, really?
Now, and listen, and they said without merit. That was a statement they put out, Gene, 2 hours after the drop. So in 2 hours, they had already came out and said without merit. So my thought is, how can you go ahead and make that statement after only 2 hours after this has come out? Like, do you not need to do some more digging? Do you not need to do some more investigating? And so that definitely raised my eyebrows too. And you read a statement from the NFL, and I want to read a statement from Brian Flores. And listen, this guy, like you said, Gene, we expect him to be a head coach next year. That's the kind of reputation he has, and he was winning with the Dolphins. So this guy is doing this knowing that he's still trying to get a job in the NFL right now. And so he says this in his quote. He says, quote, "I understand that I may be risking coaching the game that I love and has done so much for my family and me. My sincere hope is that by standing against the systemic racism in the NFL, others will join me to ensure that positive change is made for generations to come." So he's unquote. So he states in his quote that he knows this could jeopardize him coaching in the NFL again, but he wants to stand for change. He knows that change needs to happen, and we've talked about it in the past, Gene. We know they put rules into place with the Rooney Rule, but let's be honest. If you have to put a rule like that into place, that already means that you have a problem.
Right.
And obviously the Rooney Rule is not working. When they instituted the Rooney Rule, they had 11 African American coaches, and today we have one African American coach in the league, and that's Mike Tomlin, who has never had a losing season. So it's just there's something going on. Obviously there's going to have to be there's a lot of allegations in this lawsuit. There's one about John Elway and his team showing up drunk the next morning to an interview and disheveled, and that was a sham interview. And most of these people are denying these allegations. So it's going to be interesting to see, A, like you said, Gene, who joins them on this lawsuit since it's class action, and B, what kind of evidence do they have? Because with the tanking allegations with Stephen Ross, it's kind of a he said. So what evidence does he have? What kind of stuff does he have? And hopefully this can create some change, because For me, I don't see how Brian Flores could come forward with this, knowing that he knows that he's going to be a head coach. He knows. So for him to do this, he has to know that he has the receipts to back all this up.
Right. Over 18 years in invested, you just wouldn't throw it away like this,
right,
Dustin. Without, for no reason. But yeah, I know on the other side of the break we will. Get more into some of these vacancies, but Brian Flores is still a candidate for the Houston Texans and I believe the Saints, perhaps, because there's a couple of more jobs out there. But yeah, and then the Texans. I look at the Texans, and when I look at the unfairness, perhaps that some of the African American coaches again. I look at Vance Joseph, who was barely given a chance in Denver. Before he was let go. And I look at Anthony Lynn, who is yet to land, another head coaching job. I thought was a pretty good damn coach with the Chargers. And I look at David Culley, the unique situation. So you bring a guy in knowing that the Texans were going to be a horrible team, but you fired a guy after 1 year. I mean, it's just like, you talk about a sham. I'm like, okay, so then you actually expect another African-American coach to even want to coach the Texans after seeing what happened to David Culley. So I don't know. And then I look at the Dustin. I look at the Eric Bieniemy now. I've heard that Eric Bieniemy is not the world's greatest interviewer, and sometimes you can mess up your own opportunities as well. I don't know, because Dustin, me and you've worked jobs. You got to prepare. You got to interview. You got to sell yourself. Your name is just not going to get it done. You still got to go in there and present yourself, which I heard that Mike Tomlin did one hell of a job with the Steelers in selling himself. But I still don't know why Eric Bieniemy hasn't, gotten a job, and that's interesting too.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. You have to go in there. You do have to interview well, and you do have to lay out what you have planned for the organization. But, Gene, if you're an offensive coordinator for a team, and I know they have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, obviously, but if you're an offensive coordinator for a team that has been to 4 AFC championship games in a row, that should say a lot for you before you even walk into the interview. And I know the interview is important, but I don't see how he's not a head coaching job yet either. And you're right. The Texans situation with David Culley, he was in a lose-lose situation. There's just a lot going on that, you want to make sure that you're given the same fair chances across the board, making sure we're doing things right. And so there's a lot of change that need to come. And honestly, the NFL can make those statements, but really this, as much as heat as Roger Goodell takes, this really isn't about Roger Goodell, because there's nothing he can do about it, because he works for the owners. This is about the owners of the NFL, looking themselves in the face and how they do business, and realizing that, that they need to make some changes. It's not just about, friends, and who you want to get jobs, that you need to provide fair across the league to give people opportunities to get a job. So until that change happens and the owners really wake up and realize that they need to do business a different way, we may not see changes. But hopefully this lawsuit from Brian Flores and him showing the courage to stand up will at least, start the process of change, and we can get some better change the way these hiring processes work. Yep. And Gene, on the flip side of that, I wanted to get your thoughts real quick on the tanking thing, because that's something totally separate in this lawsuit. And in my honest opinion, if somehow they could ever find that to be true with Stephen Ross, and now Hugh Jackson's talking about it with Haslam in Cleveland, those guys should not own an NFL team if that somehow finds out to be the case.
Yeah, that's a good one, Dustin. I tell you what, because I know we're at the bottom of the hour, and because we're going to continue with the current NFL coaching vacancies, let's pick that. I would give you my response on the other side of the break here. Folks, you are listening to the MeanGene Show with Dustin Phifer here on KDWN, 720 AM, 101.5 FM, Las Vegas. And we are back, folks. Once again, you're listening to the MeanGene Show here on KDWN, 720 AM, 101.5 FM, Las Vegas, getting you ready for the Pro Bowl, which will take place Sunday at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. Mean Gene will be there, and looking forward to that. We're going to talk about that here a little bit later on in the show. Dustin Phifer, my co-host from Bally Sports Southeast, covers the Carolina Panthers and the Charlotte Hornets. Now, Dustin, the Lakers are still looking bad. And
they're still looking bad. Yes, they are. That's your guys. They came to Charlotte. Russell Westbrook played hard, but the Hornets were still able to get a win. Another tough loss last night. So
the Hornets beat the Lakers, and everybody's beating the Lakers. Okay, everybody. So just this is the year to beat the Lakers.
Will they make the playoffs, Gene?
Ooh, we're going to talk about that.
Will they make the playoffs?
After the Super Bowl, we're going to talk some NBA.
That's right.
We're going to talk a lot of NBA. All right, folks. So, all right. The MeanGene Show is brought to you by Presidential Limousine by Captain. Give them a call. Get in those limos and ride all over Las Vegas. 702-410-6057. We also brought to you by the Westgate Las Vegas Resort Casino. Get on down there. Place your bet on the big game, the Super Bowl. Get down to the sports book and make that bet. And speaking of bets here, guess who's going to join us next week for the biggest pick of the season? It's Mr. Picks.
Who we got?
Mr. Picks.
Oh, Mr. Picks.
Mr. Picks is he wants to come on and help everyone make the proper wager, including those prop bets. So we'll talk about all that stuff anyway. So that's going to be fun. But anyway, get on down to the Westgate, the sports book, and place those bets. So, all right, before the break, the show ended in the first segment. We were talking about the Brian Flores situation. And these coaching vacancies, the lack of qualified African-American coaches getting opportunities. And then, Dustin, I think you were asking me about what were you asking me, Dustin? Let's recap on that.
So we were talking about the allegations, obviously, about the hiring process, and we got into details with that. But the other big allegation in this lawsuit was the tanking, with Stephen Ross offering $100,000 per loss so they could lose more games and get a higher draft pick. And now Hugh Jackson saying that the same was offered to him from Haslam in Cleveland. So my thought, Gene, and I want to get your thoughts on this, is what you think about this, because, as serious as the hiring process is with African-American coaches, this is talking about the integrity of the game. Mm-hmm. And if somehow this is true, and I know it's going to be hard to prove with people going back and forth, but if somehow this is true, how can these owners remain owners of NFL franchises when they're offering their team money to lose games?
I tell you, look, I believe it's true, because I think, when we're watching games in the Miami situation, I can really believe it, because, Dustin, there were times during the season when, Jacoby Brissett was in, and it seemed like, I don't know if that's the guy that Flores wanted. It seemed like he wanted Tua, because it seemed like he wanted to win. So it just seemed like something was going on there, and which, I kind of believe it led to his firing. I believe it led to his firing because you didn't do what you were told to do, which is probably tank games. I mean, just look how that played out. The guy won games. He had a winning season, and he gets fired. So, man, go figure. I know it's going to be hard to prove that, but there's a show on HBO, The Rock plays in the show called Ballers. And a lot of NFL players.
Ballers. What a great show.
Man, it's a great show, but they have so many scenarios, like this one. They have a scenario where The Rock is actually the first African-American owner of a team, which just happens to be the Chiefs. And then they have like a Jerry Jones-like character that, they don't use those names. They have different names. But that show has so many real life scenarios that, you think it's acting and you think these stories are made up. No, because why do you think they bring those NFL players in there? Because, man, they know this stuff is so real. But, Dustin, I believe GMs, owners would make that phone call down to the field and they would say, get that guy out of there. Let's do this. Let's do that. Because they can, Dustin.
Yeah, and listen, I agree with you. It's going to be hard to prove, and unless, in fairness to those people who, like Stephen Ross and Jimmy Haslam, they're denying the allegations, so they're obviously innocent until proven guilty. But in my eyes, I believe it as well, Gene, because we've seen kind of what's been going on down in Miami. They haven't had a lot of winning seasons lately. And, same with the Browns when Hugh Jackson was there. The guy wins 2 games and keeps his job. He's saying that he was offered money there. So these are situations where these owners are doing everything they can to make their team better. And if that's tanking to get a higher draft pick, I think they're going to do it. And so we'll see how it all plays out. But, man, like I said, the NFL cannot like hearing that. And if somehow they can prove it, I don't see how those guys keep their franchises, going against the integrity of the game.
Me either. And I tell you what, and at some point in time, the NFL, which is a big organization, at some point in time, Dustin, and I really feel this is going to happen, I think the NFL is going to find themselves in Congress. And I think they will – I think it's probably going to take the government to not break them, but maybe just really put them out there and force them to make changes, which, we've seen it happen with major organizations, Ford, all of these big companies, even, with Facebook, with Microsoft. I mean, you would get so big, Dustin, to where you can be controlled, and the government, can do that. And the NFL is really barking up that tree to where someone is going to come in and put some oversight on them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you mentioned that, and I think I was watching Brian Flores and his attorneys on ESPN the other day, and his attorney made a great comment. We go back, Gene, to talk about that comment from the NFL without merit when they released that 2 hours after he filed the lawsuit. And Brian Flores' attorney says, hey, listen, how long did they investigate deflated footballs?
Yeah.
Think about that. How long did they investigate that? But it took them 2 hours to come out here about the lawsuit and say without merit. So that makes no sense.
That was a good point.
You need to do your due diligence, find out what's going on here with this tanking, find out what's going on with these hiring processes. But again, I give Brian Flores a lot of credit for standing up and really risking his coaching career, because with him filing a lawsuit against the NFL and the owners, those owners are now saying, well, hey, we may not want to hire you because you have lawsuits against, against
that's
our
a tough
team.
one.
So he's putting his career on the line.
Yeah, you're right. And I mentioned the government, Dustin, because at some point in time, certain discrimination suits, they can be picked up by the Department of Justice. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting. I'm sure they got their eye on it. I don't think they're going to jump in this particular one, but you never know. And that's why when you got a class action, boy, the more people jump on that, we're going to see. But let's talk about some of the current vacancies that are going on here. So while we're talking about coaching here, and right now I know that the Texans, they have yet to hire a coach. The Miami Dolphins have yet to hire a coach. The Vikings came close, and I think they might have found one, but still no announcement. And then the Saints, they all have vacancies, Dustin.
Yeah, they all have vacancies. Actually, a big hire happened overnight last night. The Jaguars hired Doug Peterson to be their next head coach. So that's another one off the list. Byron Leftwich, Todd Bowles, those were candidates for those jobs. But in the end, they went with Doug Peterson. And listen, Doug Peterson's a Super Bowl winning coach, so he definitely has the credentials. So that's a hire that I think will help the Jacksonville Jaguars. And listen, gee, I don't say this often, but a lot of times you go into a job and you're following a big-name coach and it's hard to follow. Doug Peterson's going in after Urban Meyer. So he can pretty much do whatever he wants, and he's going to look good. So I think this is a good situation for him. He helped develop Carson Wentz. Now he can help develop Trevor Lawrence. So a good hire for the Jaguars. But you talk about the other teams, the Saints. I thought Jim Harbaugh to the Vikings, Gene, was a done deal.
Yeah,
turns out that Jim Harbaugh comes in there thinking he's got the job and realizes that, hey, Minnesota's interviewing him, but they also have other candidates they look at, and he wasn't too happy about that and kind of decided to go back to Michigan. So he's back in Michigan. The word that I'm hearing is Kevin O'Connell, the Rams offensive coordinator, is going to be the next head coach there for the Vikings most likely. So that's another one we're looking at. But then, like you said, the Texans and the Saints, and I'll get your thoughts on the Texans since you're in Houston a lot. Sounds like Flores is still a chance for that job, but also a name I keep hearing who's coached some high school football where I'm at in North Carolina is Josh McCown, who doesn't have any coaching experience. So there's a couple names out there that I'm hearing for the Texans job. So it'll be interesting to see where the rest of those vacancies go.
Yeah, with the Texans, and I've heard Josh McCown and of course, Jim Caldwell and Dennis Allen. Well, it looked like Dennis Allen might have a shoe in there on the Saints since he is the defensive coordinator there if they want to keep things in-house there. And of course, you still have, like you said, Byron Leftwich out there, and it looks like Dan Quinn is staying with the Cowboys from the latest information I have. The Texans is going to be an interesting job because I don't know if anybody wants it, first of all. Who knows what's going to happen with the organization, especially with Deshaun Watson. But I'm sure someone's going to take the job. Someone's going to get that job, and I don't know. I have no idea, Dustin, who's going to take that job because the organization is a mess. Believe me, it is.
Yeah, it's definitely a mess, and I think you may want to bring a guy like Jim Caldwell in there who has kind of that calming sense, who can come in and kind of run things. Flores has some connections with Nick Caesarea, and I wonder too, Gene, that Flores has a really good relationship with Deshaun Watson. We heard his name a lot in Miami.
Yeah.
But, Watson is kind of, even if you bring Flores in, I don't think Watson wants to play for that organization. But, another name you talked about, Josh McCown, he doesn't have any head coaching experience, so maybe he should try to be a coordinator first. But I do think down the road, Josh McCown will be a really good head coach. So it'll be interesting to see who takes that job. But you're right, whoever takes it, they need to realize what they're in for. And probably the best bet that can happen is, as much as of a talent as Deshaun Watson is, if they can just get that trade to happen and bring back assets, that at least starts your process of moving forward and having a plan.
It does. So so we'll keep an eye on that. But some of the hirings that did take place, and I cannot pronounce this guy's last name. The Bears. They hired Matt
Eberflus.
Eberflus. What a name. Okay, so Matt Eberflus is the new head coach of the Chicago Bears, so he gets to have fun with what's his name, Mr. Fields.
Mr. Justin Fields.
Justin Fields, yeah, he gets to have fun with him. And there was another hiring, Nathaniel Hackett, who is the son of Paul Hackett, the former USC coach. He is the head coach of the Denver Broncos. And then probably the most shocking one. The shocking is not even a statement. Dustin, you remember the mess between the Patriots and the Raiders, the Tuck rule and all of that stuff. And I tell you, Raiders fans hate the Patriots and probably vice versa, right? Please explain to me, why would you go and hire a GM out of the Patriots organization and a head coach? Josh McDaniels is the head coach of the Raiders. Al Davis has to be rolling over in his grave. May his soul rest in peace.
Yeah, and I guess it's just one of those things, Gene, where you hate somebody so much that you respect what they've done. I guess they really like the way they built things in New England. I've never really, as much as they've had winning success in New England, I've never really been a McDaniels guy. The Belichick coaching tree has been hit or miss. I mean, you have guys like Vrabel who's doing well. Flores, who was doing well, but then you also had guys like Matt Patricia, and even McDaniels hasn't had a really good go around the first couple times. So it'll be interesting to see. McDaniels is an offensive mind, so let's hope he can come in and keep that offense rolling. But I guess they really wanted to kind of follow that Pat's model of the way they build their system.
Yeah, and the more shocking thing about the Raiders organization is that you would think that, okay, hire your GM and give that GM that confidence to hire his own coach. Now, in the case of these two guys, I think they were a package deal altogether.
I think they were a package deal as well. And I said all along, Gene, and get your thoughts on this, but I know that he doesn't have a ton of head coaching experience, but the job that Bisaccia did out there, I just thought that he deserved a chance to take that job. And it's not just about what he did to take him to the playoffs. I'm listening to the testimonies from these players.
Oh, I know.
And every player I hear just talks about how much they love this guy. And so I just don't understand with the Raiders. I know you have to do a GM, and maybe the GM wants a different guy. But when you have got players who are playing for a guy like that and love him, and you go to the playoffs and you got things rolling, I really think they should have gave him a chance on the job.
I do too, and I think I think he is in a good position now because he has been able to audition for the other teams, that have vacancies now, and I'm told that he is interviewing for the Dolphins, and it doesn't look like he's going to get the Vikings. He could get the Texans job, or he could get the Saints job. So He didn't get the opportunity with the Raiders, but he might get another opportunity because of what he did. And sometimes you just got to make good use of your time. And I think he did that, Dustin. And I think good things come to that guy, because I've heard the same thing that you just said. He's a great guy. You didn't hear a whole lot. He doesn't say a whole lot. He doesn't. He just sits there, does his job. He did it well in light of everything that happened with the Raiders organization. So I think Rich Bisaccia is going to get another job, Dustin.
Yeah, I definitely think he will too. You're right. He set himself up in a good position to really have a good future. So we'll see what happens, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with these other vacancies. I mean, Miami's got a lot of mess going on right now, and still a vacancy. So what coach would want to go down there, we'll have to see. So it's going to be interesting to see with these vacancies who fills them. I was very surprised that Harbaugh didn't go down there, but Harbaugh's ego, so that kind of maybe got in the way. So it'll be interesting to see what happens to fill these vacancies, but they need to fill them quick because the draft's going to be coming up soon.
Right. You're absolutely right. Now, I did want to mention one thing, and I'm not really ragging on Josh McDaniel. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm trying to do it in the most respectful way, but so the first thing he says as the Raiders coach is, oh yeah, by the way, that tuck rule, yeah, that was a fumble.
Hey, listen, Gene, maybe he just, he wanted to come in. He thought a joke would, maybe bring him back to the Raiders side and get him off on a good foot.
Are you kidding me, man? You're going to get beat down in that city. But don't go to Oakland. Don't go to Los Angeles, man. There are folks that are pissed off about that. And anyway, I just thought I would throw that out there.
all I can say is, you talked about Al Davis. The only thing he can do to get him to like him is just win, baby. And if he doesn't win, you're right. They're gonna have some heat from those fans coming.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, I just can't believe he said that. But anyway, the 2022 Pro Bowl presented by Verizon is going to be played at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas on Sunday. Game is going to take place at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So, Dustin, okay, so I catch a flight Sunday morning from Houston to Las Vegas. I get there at about 7:20, and at about 4.5 hours later, I got to be at the stadium. So I have a long day ahead of me Sunday. But anyway, it's the Pro Bowl, Dustin, and man, I tell you what, the latest additions to that Pro Bowl is going to be, of course, some of the Chiefs that made it will be there. As a matter of fact, let's see what Chiefs did get in there. We're going to talk about that because I'm trying to look at this list and get it together here. Where's Kansas City? Okay, so wow. So you got Orlando Brown, Frank Clark, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, and Tyrann Mathieu is going to be there. And who from the 49ers, they have some new additions. So you got Kittle and Debo. I don't know if Debo's going to play. It looked like he was hurt. But anyway, it's the Pro Bowl, Dustin. And a lot of folks, don't really care about the Pro Bowl. But I'm excited because it's my first one. But what are your thoughts on the Pro Bowl?
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those things that definitely had more allure back in the day. A little more. It seemed like eyes on it some more. It looked like the players cared about it a little more. So it definitely has lost some of that lately. I think having it in Vegas is going to be big though. I know they had the skills competition as well. But just having it in Vegas, having things to do before and after the game is only going to enhance the experience, and hopefully it'll bring it back kind of the way it used to be. I know it's a different game. Players, they don't want to get hurt. They're not going as hard, but it's still a time to celebrate the accomplishments. Kind of make it, like you said, more of a weekend thing, an event to where people can go enjoy it. So I think even though it's not what everybody thinks it used to be, I think you're going to have a great time out there with it being in Vegas. And they should put on a good show. Well,
you got MIKE VRABEL. He will coach the AFC Pro Bowl team, and you got MATT LAFLEUR will coach the NFC squad. But I tell you what, I do like the pro football, the Pro Bowl legends, captains. You got Reggie Wayne, and you got Jason Witten, and I know this name is familiar to you, Luke Kuechly. How about that?
Oh man, that name just brings back so many memories. What a career that guy had, and he's obviously missed here in Panthers Nation. But these guys, like you said, he had 9 years. He kind of retired still in his prime, Gene.
Yeah, he did.
These guys want to make sure they're taking care of their bodies, and he accomplished what he thinks he needs to accomplish. So it'll be good to see him out there. And I'll mention this, Gene. You mentioned the coaches. Maybe, I don't think they're going to have as much fun in this game. They're going to like being around the players, but do you think the two number one seeded coaches, VRABEL and LaFleur, aren't going to be sitting on the sidelines thinking about how their team probably should still be in the playoffs?
I know it. That's why I mentioned it, man, because, man, and you already know that look that VRABEL puts on his face, man, when he's pissed. I can just see it now. He's like, do I really want to be here? Hey, smile for the camera, Mike. Smile, okay? And then LaFleur is not going to be happy because he doesn't know where his quarterback is going to be playing next year.
That's right. Yeah, he's got a lot more on his mind about how to keep Aaron Rodgers, and he's probably pushed a lot of stuff off to the assistant coaches this weekend. So,
but so it's going to be interesting. They got the what they call the Pro Bowl Skills Showdown, which is consists of Mark Andrews, Nick Chubb, Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill, Derwin James, Mac Jones, Hunter Renfrow, Denzel Ward. So this should be interesting. And that's from the AFC. And then you have from the NFC, Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, Trayvon Diggs, Micah Parsons, Alvin Kamara, Darius Slade, Russell Wilson from the NFC. So, I guess it's going to be good. Like I said, I've never been to one of these before. Even though we have given tickets, we have flew people across the country, put them up in hotels to go see the Pro Bowl. It was about damn time Mean Gene made one of these, Dustin.
Absolutely. And there's still, regardless of what the game people think about, there's going to be still a lot of talent on that field. And a lot of, you talk about the Raiders being in Vegas. I mean, you talk about Renfro, you talk about Max Crosby, Denzel Perryman. Those guys are going to get the show out in front of their home crowd. So I think it's still going to be a great time. And again, Gene, like you said, go to the game, have a great time, and then after the game, you're in Vegas. So, hey, this is. I think this is a perfect place for the Pro Bowl to be.
Yeah, it is, and it's just all setting up for that 2024 Super Bowl, which is going to be in Vegas. Good luck trying to not let's getting a ticket to that game, but even getting a hotel room in that city. And I know Vegas has a lot of hotels, but I can guarantee you they will sell out for that Super Bowl in 2024. I do want to give a shout out, though, to New England Patriots Matthew Slater. This is his 10th Pro Bowl. And then how about Russell Wilson? This is his 9th.
It's 9th Pro Bowl, and is it the last one as a Seahawk? That's what I'm wondering. So it's going to be interesting to see a lot of stuff going on this offseason. You talk about the Super Bowl being in Vegas. They have the upcoming draft in Vegas as well. So a lot of stuff going on. Vegas is going to be the center of it, like it always is for all events. So this is going to be a fun time coming up for the NFL. And man, Matthew Slater, 10-time Pro Bowl as a special teamer, that's impressive. That's
very impressive. Yeah, it's just some of those things that you would not hear anyone say. You heard it on the Mean Gene Show because no one, you probably won't see him on TV or on the sports talk shows because that's not a glamorous position, but that is a major accomplishment to make it 10 times. So, whoo, man, Dustin, what a jam-packed show, full of updates and that was quite a bit. But, hey, please join us next week as we break down Super Bowl 56. We got a whole hour to talk about the Bengals and the Rams. Dustin and I will be part of the NFL Virtual Media Super Bowl interviews. So we look forward to talking with the Bengals and the Rams prior to the big game next Sunday, Dustin. That should be pretty exciting.
It's going to be exciting to break down. I think these two teams are about as even as you can get. So a lot to break down, a lot to talk about. And like you said, the NFL news never sleeps. So it's going to be a big-time week leading up to the big game, and I can't wait to talk about it.
All right, folks. Hey, we hope you enjoyed the show. Enjoy the Pro Bowl on Sunday. Come back and join us again next week here on the Mean Gene Show. KDWN 720 AM, 101.5 FM, Las Vegas.